We all set?
Yep.
Good morning. Before we start our regularly scheduled program, I want to take a moment to address what has been an incredibly difficult week in our country. Just yesterday, I was honored to stand on sacred ground, a place we honored the lives of those lost 24 years ago on 9/11. I want to use today, September 12th, as an opportunity to talk about what happened on September 12th, 2001. And I proudly recall America 24 years ago, that in the face of unspeakable horror, our nation's greatest strength was its unity. And I recall how fellow New Yorkers and Americans, just really felt bonded together, felt as one. And I'm calling on New Yorkers and Americans today, on this September 12th, to hearken back to that same sense of purpose, a unifying purpose. At the time, we did not split into factions. We did not fight each other. We did not demonize political voices that differed from our own. And yet today, we face a very different threat: the rise of political violence right here at home. We've seen it in an assassination attempt on our president, the murder of Charlie Kirk, the brutal killing of Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, the firebombing of a governor's residence, Josh Shapiro, and of course the violent attack on our Capitol on January 6th. These are not isolated incidences. They're really warning signs. And I say this because I do not want us to ever become desensitized to the shock and horror of each of these incidences. You can't shrug it off as the new normal. We can't allow it to escalate. And yet, just yesterday, institutions across our state and our nation were victims of swatting, threats, putting people on edge. We had 7 black colleges and dozens of Democratic offices here in the state of New York that had to be placed on lockdown after receiving threats. I can tell you, this was not the America of September 12th, 2001. And it should not be the September 12th of 2025. Let me say this loud and clear: political violence has no place in America. Zero. A democracy thrives on debate, not bloodshed. And as governor, I know that words matter. It's not enough for leaders to condemn the violence after the fact. We must call out the reckless rhetoric that sparks it. New Yorkers understand this. We settle our differences at the ballot box. We cherish free speech, but we also demand responsibility, because reckless words can lead to reckless acts. And I think about the aftermath of the bloody violence that terrorized my hometown of Buffalo 3 years ago. Driven by hate speech, radicalization online, we took aggressive action from that day forward so we could identify threats and eliminate them, strengthening our red flag laws, expanding our threat assessment teams, and increasing monitoring online threats. Also acknowledging that guns in the wrong hands and unchecked extremism online can often lead to devastating tragedy. But state policy alone is not enough. What we need now from leaders of every party, every community, is restraint, respect, and a little more compassion. That's why next week I'll be convening leaders from both parties for a security briefing and a candid conversation about how we can work together to turn down the temperature and prevent more violence, at least here in New York. Because we cannot continue down this path. We cannot allow our political differences to obscure our shared humanity. We cannot surrender our common decency to the dark corners of social media, where vitriol is magnified, respectful debate is muted or non-existent, and where our enemies can spread disinformation, threats from abroad, seizing this moment to divide us. It's real simple. At the end of the day, we're all Americans. And as broken as our nation can feel at times like this, I still believe to my core that the ties that bind us are much stronger than the forces that seek to tear us apart. Most of us, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, we have the same dreams. Safe place for our kids, our work, have some fun. We'll live with a sense of purpose and dignity. So in this difficult, painful moment, let us strive to find common ground for those shared aspirations. Because I know if we sit down with our neighbors, look them in the eyes, we tend to see their decency and their humanity, and they in us. Let us listen before we speak. Let us think before we judge. Let us resolve to forge a safer, more tolerant world, not just for today, for our children and our grandchildren. That's the America I hold in my heart, and I believe it should exist in everyone's heart. We have work to do, but as always, New York is up for the challenge. As again, we hearken back to that unifying moment that defined us and the next generation to realize what we can do together when we're hit, taken aback, see horror. The next day, and today is the next day, we come together. Now I'm going to take a moment to shift gears and talk about our efforts to drive crime down, not just all over the state, but particularly here in the Capital Region. And I'm really proud to be here today with members of the East Greenbush Police Department. We have our great Chief of Police, been Chief for 7 years, a member of the force for 31 years, Chief Elaine Rudzinski. Let's give her a round of applause. Our Supervisor, Jack Conley, appreciate all he did. Conway and we had our shared experience about what it's like on a town board. I spent 14 years as a town board member, and I understand the power of local government to do good for people's lives, and I want to thank him for years of public service as well. And also we have our district attorney, Mary Pat Donnelly. We've been through a lot of battles on the same side as we worked to change discovery laws and make sure that we had common sense policies so they could do their jobs and protect our communities. She also is the president of the statewide District Attorneys Association. I want to thank our district attorney for joining us as well. And also the men and women of this police force, second to none. I had a chance to meet a number of them. Dedicated, some fairly new on the job, some been here as long as 40 years. That to me is the ultimate in public service. And I thank them and all their colleagues for making sure that they work hard for keeping us safe. Keeping people safe, my number one priority. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. And I also believe that dollars, investments, make a real statement about your commitment. It's not just words, it's real dollars to support that. So last year we just delivered $127 million in grants to help local agencies upgrade their police technology with the most advanced tools that money could buy. Again, I was on the town board. We'd have loved to have the state government help us fund needed technology improvements, but we had to do it on our own. I vowed to change that dynamic when I became the governor and to be an ally, support local governments in particular who are on the front lines of keeping communities safe. I want them to be able to investigate and link crimes, put dangerous people behind bars. And here in the Capital Region, we allocated over $10 million, including $387,000 for the East Greenbush Police Department. So earlier today, Chief Elaine Rudzinski, the first female chief of police here in Rensselaer County, way to go, showed me how funding is already working. an upgraded radio console, 3 radios for their shared services SWAT team. I was just in the vehicle that is the one that's there when the crises are the most frightening, and the technology that they can use, and to launch drones from there. New computers and monitors in the dispatch center. And as I mentioned, the drones we saw on display here, the night vision goggles and helmets, just to name a few. And it's already played a critical role in keeping our region safe, with better communication between departments and people here on the ground. But technology alone is not enough to keep a region safe. Since I've taken office, 4 years, we've invested over $3 billion in state and local law enforcement. $21 million here in the Capital Region for key programs. It's all about not just money for technology, but you have to create a whole ecosystem of safety and security. That meant $5 million for our GIVE initiative, which is directly responsible for getting guns off the streets. $2 million for our SNUG program, which is violence disruptors who are literally on the ground, in the streets, creating connections, particularly with young people, showing them an alternative path. $2.7 million for youth employment, because the best crime-fighting tool is a job, no matter your age. And $2 million for Project Rise, supporting community organizations that offer mentorship, mental health services, and proven interventions to reduce crime. And I'm here to say it's working. Shooting incidences in the capital GIVE jurisdictions have declined by 45% since last year alone. That's extraordinary. If we fund our police, give them the support they need, the respect they deserve, connect people to the resources they need, we can effectively fight crime, and the numbers bear that out. Now, unfortunately, we're seeing a different dynamic in Washington, where the administration has gutted billions of dollars intended to go for law enforcement. Here they've cut almost $1 million less because of those cuts here for our law enforcement community. And they're threatening to slash funding from critical programs such as hazmat, tactical teams, K-9 teams, and search and rescue. That money's not being used to protect hardworking Americans. Instead, it's being used for other purposes, beefing up ICE instead of supporting these initiatives. And what is ICE spending more of their time on? I wish they'd spend all their time on going after the worst of the worst, the heinous criminals that we were told they were going to devote their energy to. And I said, I'll help you. I will always help you do that. But instead, we're splitting up families, terrorizing people, just doing their jobs. Yesterday, I was on the phone with the CEO of a small power bar company where they just endured a raid of 70 individuals. I don't know when the trauma is going to leave that family and those individuals who were separated, still trying to find the whereabouts of a number of moms who had infants, including one that was nursing. My friends, we can do better than that. Let's get that money back where it belongs in places like this. Let's continue making a difference, because that's cruelty. It has nothing to do with public safety. So here we know our crime-fighting strategies are working in the Capital Region, but as I always say, there's no such thing as a mission accomplished sign for me. We'll not take our foot off the gas. More work to do. Continue focusing on what they do. And again, I'm going to say this again and again. I am so grateful to everyone who goes through the rigors of training, puts on a uniform, knows they can be a target, not sure they're going to make it back to their families at the end of the day, and they do it anyhow. I'm in awe of their courage. I'm in awe of their public service. And as the governor of the great state of New York, I am proud that you are doing what you do, because it lets me sleep better at night as well. So thanks to all of you. And with that, let me turn it over to Chief Radzinski to speak more about how we're fighting crime here in East Greenbush.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'd just like to thank Governor Hochul for her financial commitment to our department, as well as many of my law enforcement partners throughout the region. It is the financial support that she has provided with us has significantly enhanced our operations and our officer safety. This support has allowed us to begin well overdue modernization and upgrades to our communication center, as she mentioned, which is the lifeline between our residents and our officers. It's allowed us to acquire a lot of the equipment that she's touched on that has been utilized in searches for missing persons, people under mental duress, children that have been lost. The drones, the capabilities that they have that we've utilized them for has been amazing. We've managed to find people that we may not have found otherwise out in wooded areas and such. The mobile and portable radios that we have purchased as shared services, as we partner with the town of Skodak, the city of Rensselaer, and the town of North Greenbush for our shared services team, and some of the members and the team leaders you see behind me, has allowed us to have better communication amongst those departments and between them and our dispatch center. So therefore, enhancing everyone's safety while they're out on these operations. All these are essential tools that help our officers perform their duties safely and effectively, no matter if it's our new computer systems that we put in throughout our system or throughout our department, or it's the things you see here. They're all utilized every day, 24/7. And without having these resources to be able to upgrade our communication center, we handle over 25,000 calls a year, some which don't go pen to paper, some that are dispatchers who are there full time. Not only dispatch us our police officers, but they dispatch 3 volunteer fire departments, as well as Bruin Rescue Squad and other medical services if needed. So it's so important that we have equipment that is not from the early 2000s that has been band-aided together and begged and borrowed from to borrow parts to fix it from other agencies. So I can't say enough that these grants that are available and these fundings that are available for especially a smaller department like ours, where our budget may not be as big as a city's department budget, are essential in providing the officers you see to the sides of me with the equipment they so desperately need. Our town board has always been so pro-police and supportive of any ideas that we have come up with. But again, this is now helps not be just a tax burden on our residents of our community, that the town board oversees our budget, and they're allowed to supplement it with these fundings that the governor has provided. So I'd just like to thank Governor Hochul again for her strong financial commitment to our public safety. Our officers can now stay focused on protecting the residents of East Greenbush, confident that the equipment they rely on is up to task and fitting of such a proactive and dedicated department. And now I'd like to introduce you to the East Greenbush Town Supervisor, Dr. Jack Conway.
Thank you all for coming. We're so excited in East Greenbush to have the governor here. And I want to say on a personal note, to stand here with the first woman governor, the first and only woman governor in the history of New York State, and the first and only woman chief of police in Rensselaer County. The country has a lot of problems, but here in New York, we are moving full speed ahead on a progressive agenda. And we're not going to let the garbage that is coming from so many directions derail us. We're going to make things happen. So we want to thank the governor for this grant, as you can see, and with our guys, we make really good use of the resources we're given. So thank you, Governor Hochul. And I also just always want to remind people that you can go 100 miles in any direction, you won't find a police force as good as the East Greenbush Police Department. And they have in our community over an 80% positive rating by the residents of this town. So the problems other people have with policing, we don't have. Our community supports our department, and the governor supports our department. So thank you, Governor Hochul. Thank you for coming, and welcome to East Greenbush.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor. Really appreciate that.
Hi, Governor. Just yesterday or the day before, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik introduced a bill in Congress that would target states that have bail reforms, things that she calls cashless bail, that would revoke access to one of the most used federal grant programs for state and local police. What's your take on that move from the Congresswoman?
So taking away funding is a way to fight crime? Is that the premise behind what she's doing? Okay. I'll let you ask her whether that's smart policy. We've invested $3 billion in law enforcement. The results are clear. Decline in crime in 1 year, 45%. We know how to get results. We don't need the rhetoric. And also, just as an FYI, let her know we're not a cashless bail state.
I'm just wondering more about the equipment. Just going either the governor or the police chief, if you can provide more details about how this equipment has been really helpful in real time, and have there been any other local police departments that have gotten similar equipment?
Yes, as I said, we're shared services with the localities that municipalities I mentioned, and the team uses this. They actually just used their equipment on a recent deployment operation in City of Rensselaer. The team leader may be able to answer anything more particular for you about that. But the night vision, we utilize that obviously not just for our tactical team, but also our patrols if there's surveillance going on, or we want to, obviously be able to observe something at a further distance at nighttime. And the radios obviously are so important. With technology changing, they become obsolete so fast. And they're just, there's backup and there's repetitiveness with them so that we can make sure that they don't falter.
And the equipment is very expensive. I mean, one radio is about $5,000, and the drones and everything else is. I looked at some drone drone demonstrations up in Plattsburgh earlier this week, and I come out of local government. This is almost impossible with the budgets that are so tight and costs going up every year for them to be able to replace equipment. That's why they do spend so much time trying to tape it all together and make it work. But these men and women in uniform, they deserve nothing but the best. They should not ever have an instance where they're not able to quickly respond to an incident because their technology is outdated or they're not able to communicate with someone in a neighboring town. So I'm really proud of the fact that the initiatives were put forward on what would serve you the best, Chief, but also serve the individuals who are out there protecting us.
And other departments will be getting similar technologies?
Oh, they have. We have 100. As I was visiting what they're using our money for up in Plattsburgh just a couple days ago, and I saw demonstrations also in Buffalo of how, and they just had said, this was very exciting. I was there months ago, but they just received their heat-seeking drone technology, and someone had wandered away from a nursing home, and they ended up finding this person in the snow, literally using technology. They literally just brought online after we gave them the support for it. And this person, elderly, was not able to take care of themselves. They would not have been able to find this person because they went down a hill covered in snow, and that person's life was saved. So I know we're making a real difference.
Governor, we're in a county where the county executive and the sheriff's office and other municipalities are, essentially gun-ho to work with ICE in any capacity that they can. That's not in line with your agenda. Have you spoken with any of those leaders recently?
No, they've made that decision, but again, I spent many of my years focusing on law enforcement strategies that actually work, and this is what works. Investing the money that otherwise, in the time of local police departments and county sheriffs, like, you've got a full-time job protecting the people of your county. The taxpayers are paying your salary. So I would look at it from that perspective. I mean, the federal dollars that are being used for ICE, that's their job. But I think my view is these individuals are busy enough not to be pulled away to go raid a business that's thriving, a family business that's been there for decades, and take away moms away from babies. I think they have higher priorities, and I bet a lot of the actual members of the rank and file believe that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Governor, as you travel around the state talking about law enforcement funding, Zoran Mamdani has said he feels that he owes the NYPD an apology for calling them racist, homophobic in a tweet back in 2020. Do you agree, and do you feel like that's enough as you weigh your support?
No, I believe an apology is in order, and I have a lot of respect for him for saying that, and that he was going to, do what he can to earn the respect of the men and women of the NYPD. I respect them immensely. I've seen them in action. So I think it's an appropriate response, yes.
Governor, you mentioned both the ICE raid in Cato and also a call for civility and a call to tamp down all violence. In Rochester this week, there was federal immigration enforcement activity, and a crowd of people came out and confronted those agents, and I believe either slashed or deflated the tires of the vehicles the agents were using. Is that good behavior, or is that good trouble?
That's violence. That's violence. Also, when you're trying to get ICE agents to leave a scene, when there's people stranded on a roof, roofers. How many people here know how to do roof? How many people want to be roofers when the sun is beating down on you? These people are taking jobs and doing work that otherwise doesn't get done, or employers having trouble. So they're up on a roof, dedicating hours trying to bring down two people who they don't even know whether or not they're in violation of laws. We don't know this. And it's inappropriate for anyone to commit violence, but if you think about it logically, it's kind of hard for them to leave when their tires are slashed, if you want them to leave the premises. So no, I don't condone any violence in any form, under any circumstances, and that was a violent act. I understand the passion behind it, but words are one thing, and I wish people would dial down the rhetoric, especially in light of the latest political assassination, but I'm not going to say it's okay to slash tires, not now, not ever.
What should New Yorkers do? Because obviously Governor Pritzker, I believe, has called for civil disobedience if there is federal action. What should New Yorkers do if they're concerned by what they think is inappropriate immigration action? You seem to think that.
Do what they did up in Sackett's Harbor earlier this year, Tom Homan's hometown, when there was a raid at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning at a dairy farm, literally called Old McDonald's Farm. A long time, very conservative family, well known in Republican circles, had this business, and their farm was raided. A mom, third grader, and her twin brothers were all taken away to a detention center. That very conservative community rose up. There were over 1,000 people who protested and made their voices loud and clear, and everybody from the school superintendent on down, they put aside their partisanship and their political beliefs and came together in support of a family. That, to me, was a beautiful outpouring of support for families who they know as their neighbors. And guess what? We got the families back. And so I can't guarantee that every time. I had conversations with Tom Homan. I spoke to him again this past week about the mom and the kids I'm trying to reunite. And he wasn't aware of that circumstance, told me he'd look into it. So the response is, again, longer term, there's always another election. That's what power that people in this country have under our democracy. But in the short term, gathering with a united voice to condemn it sometimes can have positive impacts. That family was reunited with their place of their home. So.
Thank you again for your support. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'll see you soon. Okay, you doing well? Yes.